What's up, guys? Brett Appley here from dailyfanmma.com. Back at you with another UFC Quick Picks video this week for UFC Fight Night Hall versus Silva on the Mayo Media Network. As always, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that right now. Lots of great content coming out throughout the week on the Mayo Media Network, including the Dogger Pass podcast, Paul Shaughnessy, Cody Saftik. Those guys do a great job every single week. Video is out right now, so if you have not watched the Dogger Pass podcast, you can pause this video, go watch that, and then come back here for the UFC Quick Picks. Going to give you a cash game play, tournament play, salary saving play, and my fade of the week as always. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, we're going to start with my favorite cash game play on the card, and that is Kevin Holland at 8.2K. And guys, okay, don't shoot the messenger here. Kevin Holland was supposed to fight Mahmoud Muradov. He was only a slight favorite in that matchup, but Muradov pulled out. The UFC called up Charlie Ontiveros, who is 11-6 professionally. As a welterweight, this fight's up at middleweight, but guess what? Ontiveros, all 6 of his losses have come by knockout, and Holland is a massive favorite. He opened at minus 800. I see him up at minus 900 in some books. He's got one of the best inside distance lines on the entire slate. Fight ends inside the distance is minus 385. This is one of the biggest values that we've ever seen on DraftKings, a minus 800, minus 900 favorite at 8.2K. It's almost to the point where it doesn't really matter who the fighter is. That is too much of a value to pass up in cash games. In large field tournaments, it's a little bit of a different conversation. Like, he's going to be maybe 70, 75, 80% owned. And that's where you can start to say, maybe I want to be a little bit underweight to the field because everyone's going to have him. In cash games, he's just far too safe. He's far too likely to win in comparison to fighters in that price range. He's far too likely to win by knockout. He's a decent range striker. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. And he's fighting an opponent who's taken this fight on 2 days' notice, a massive underdog who's been knocked out 6 times. So my favorite cash game play of the week, it's an obvious one, but we're looking for safety, we're looking for upside, we're looking for value. Kevin Holland has all that at 8.2K, cash game play of the week. Next up, going to give you one of my favorite tournament plays of the week, and I'm going with Adrian Yanez up at 9.2K. He's another huge favorite here, minus 450 against Victor Rodriguez at plus 360. And Yanez also has one of the best inside distance lines on the slate at minus 155. Yanez making his UFC debut here at 11-3 professionally, coming off Dana White's Contender Series where he won by knockout in 39 seconds. He's got 11 wins, 6 wins by knockout, 2 by submission. And I like what I see from the kid. I mean, there's always some risks with a fighter making his UFC debut, especially from the Contender Series. Maybe he's a little bit overhyped here, but he looks pretty solid. He looks like he's got good hands. It looks like he's got knockout upside. And most importantly, I mean, he's facing an opponent in Victor Rodriguez who's taking this fight on short notice, coming from the Alaskan regional scene, which is not one of the strongest regional scenes. Just unfortunately, he's 7-2 professionally. Both of his losses have come inside the distance, and even some of his decision wins, and not even decision wins, some of his recent wins haven't been super impressive. He's just been fighting low-level competition. I don't consider him a great wrestler. I don't consider him a great striker. I feel like Yanez is the better fighter here everywhere. He's going to have opportunities to land punches early, and more than anything, in tournaments, we're just looking for upside, right? Regardless of the risk, we're looking for fighters who can, when they win, score 100 or more points. And Yanez, I think, has clear knockout upside, and the metrics indicate that. Not only is he a big favorite, again, minus 155 inside distance, one of the best lines on the entire slate. I'm hoping not many people have heard of the kid because he is making his UFC debut, and there's a bunch of solid favorites on this card. Alexander Hernandez, 9.3K, Sean Strickland, 9.1K, Greg Hardy's up here. So Adrian Yanez, 9.2K, is one of my favorite tournament options on the slate. I think he's got knockout upside. I'm willing to target him at a pretty high rate when I do have the salary to pay up this week. Next up, I'm going to give you one of my favorite salary saving plays on the card, and I'm going with Andre Fili at 7.7K, taking on Bryce Mitchell. Andre Fili is only plus 115 to win, Mitchell minus 135, so Fili's a bit of a value here at 7.7K. This is a really tough slate because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 big underdogs, I would say. So there's just not many options when you're looking below the mid-range. It's not like I can say, wow, well, there's 5 fighters, 7.5K and below, who are in consideration. I don't really consider that to be the case on this slate. So I'm really looking for any fighter who I think can just get the W. And Andre Fili, I do have some concerns with him, but ultimately, I think he's got a path to victory. Bryce Mitchell is a talented submission grappler, but he's been fairly limited in his UFC career to that aspect of the game. He hasn't shown much striking, lands 2.05 significant strikes per minute. Andre Fili is a much more experienced fighter, a veteran of the UFC, taller, longer, has landed 3.9 significant strikes per minute. Even a decent wrestler himself, 2.71 takedowns per 15 minutes. So it's not that Fili can't win this fight on the ground, but I do think his path to victory is on the feet if he can defend takedowns, which he defends takedowns at 69%. Nice average right there. I think he's got a chance to win. He's a far superior striker to Bryce Mitchell, and 7.7K at plus 115. I think it's a decent spot, a decent value. He may be popular, but again, I'm looking for a fighter with a path to victory, someone I think has any shot to get the win. And yeah, maybe it doesn't go Fili's way 50% of the time, but at 7.7K, it doesn't really matter. I think he's a solid option below the mid-range, fighter who can get you the win, and maybe he's got some knockout upside as well, depending on how the fight plays out. So Andre Fili, 7.7K, my salary saver of the week. Last up, I'm going to give you my fade of the week, and I've been giving you some relatively chalky plays today, so I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to give you a fighter who it's not that I want to fade him per se, but I do plan to be underweight to the field, and that's Greg Hardy at 8.8K. All the metrics look good for Hardy. 8.8K is a pretty good number for minus 335. Hardy's a big favorite. He's also minus 135 inside the distance. If you just look at those numbers, which is smart, which makes sense, you can consider Hardy one of the better plays on this slate. And at 8.8K, I think he's going to be relatively popular. People like him for whatever reason. People want him to win by knockout. His opponent, Maurice Green, is not super talented. So it's not that I dislike Hardy, but I'll explain why I think I personally plan to be underweight to the field on him, and it's because I really think he's knockout or bust to end up on the optimal lineup, and I'm just not confident in that knockout. Hardy still has not been a professional for very long. We can't count on his ground game. It's not like he's going to go out there and land takedowns. I don't believe he's ever landed a takedown in the UFC yet. And Maurice Green's a better submission grappler than him anyway. So Green has some advantages should the fight play out on the mat. That means Hardy's got to get this victory on the feet, which is fine. We consider him a power striker to an extent, but he's actually not yet landed a single knockdown in the UFC. He does have finishes over Dmitry Smolyakov and Juan Adams. Both of those came on the ground. Juan Adams shot for a takedown and Hardy beat him with hammer fists, and Smolyakov kind of just crumbled. That's not quite the same as knocking out a fighter at range, at distance, which I think he's going to have to do here against Maurice Green. And the other aspect of it is Hardy hasn't been some aggressive power puncher. He's kind of been a patient range point fighter. He only lands... he's landed 4.48 significant strikes per minute. That's very solid. But in recent decisions, he's landed 55, 46, 54 significant strikes. That's not a very high rate. And he's facing an opponent now in Maurice Green, who is very big. Green's 6'7", an 80-inch reach, the same reach as Hardy. And Green, I think, is going to want to play that John Jones style, training out of Jackson Wink. The range game, front kicks, teep kicks. He's not going to want to go in there and just brawl with Hardy. And so, I really have concerns as to how quickly Hardy can win this fight by knockout, if he can win the fight at all. And so at 8.8K, if he's going to be 30, 35, 40% owned, I'll have some shares of him, but ultimately, I just don't think Hardy's chances of going in there, landing his first knockdown of his UFC career, and getting a knockout inside the first 7 minutes, I just don't think that's as likely as the public perceives it to be. A, especially because he's not going to be in top position, and B, because he doesn't even land strikes at that high of a rate. So is he a horrible tournament play? No, of course not, but he's my fade of the week in the sense that I just am not as high on him as the public. I plan to be underweight to the field. So there you go. Greg Hardy, 8.8K, my DraftKings fade of the week. And that's going to do it, guys, again, for UFC Quick Picks, Hall vs. Silva. Thank you again for the support. Really appreciate your comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as usual, and let me know in the comment section below, who your favorite play on the slate is. Always love to hear what your guys thinking. You can follow me on Twitter at Brett Appley, TTP, dailyfanmma.com for full DraftKings breakdowns, podcasts, rankings, projections, all that good stuff. If you want extra info, you can use the promo code SPIDER for 10% off any weekly package. Again, dailyfanmma.com. Thank you guys. Best of luck in your contest this week. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.